So earlier this offseason, Brandin Cooks was traded for a 5th and 6th round pick. Brandin Cooks has been traded a lot of times over the course of his career. But why did the Texans get rid of him, and what does he bring to Dallas? Can he be someone who can be a real asset for them? Well, first, let's look at his box score statistics. I know box score stats aren't the end-all, be-all, but hey, can give us a starting point here in our evaluation of him before we get into the film. And you see that definitely, statistically, it was a down year, although, again, worth mentioning, played a lot less snaps last year as well. But over the course of his career, he's, when healthy, been a pretty consistent 1,000-yard receiver, although never had more, his career high is 1,204 yards. So pretty interesting how he has so many different 1,000-yard seasons, 6 in fact 1,000-yard seasons, but never has a 1,300-yard season or even a 1,210-yard season. Just kind of interesting there, kind of been very consistent. But okay, that's what his box score stats say. But what about something maybe a little bit more advanced, like a PFF grade? If you see that, it makes you I feel like it makes you feel a little bit better if you're a Cowboys fan. Had a 72.3 grade, which is maybe a tad lower, but kind of around where he's been for most of his career. He's had 2 years where he's had a grade of over 80, and interestingly enough, you look at the trend, that was his first year in a new uniform in those 2 places, in LA and in Houston. Obviously, he's played for several different teams and been pretty consistently good in all of them, so he can play in different schemes. He's a very effective receiver who can do can do all the simple stuff, really, and it shows that on this stuff. Again, really the worst statistic I would say that you see on here is just the total snaps last year, only 657. Obviously, he's a little older. He is still only 29 years old. I feel like people feel like he's a bit older, but still, that's where he's at right now. It is a little concerning that he's coming off an injury and all that, but as a whole, he was playing just as good, at least according to PFF grades and stats. But let's look at maybe some tape. Well, first, let's head over here. And what's going to happen here is it's going to be a zone coverage play. And you see that, for Brandin Cooks, that's the route he will be running. So what's really important about these routes, I think, is the stem portion of the route, the beginning portion of it. Don't give anything away. Don't give it away what you're doing. You want to make it, want to not make it clear exactly what you're doing until you start to cut. And so for Cooks, you see that he accelerates very well. And at this point, the corner, you got to be aware of a potential deep route, right? You got to be aware of him cutting over the middle. You have to give him space more than anything. The deep route is the most important one for him. A deep route or an out route would kind of be the 2 most deadly ones you would assume. And so because of that, that's where the corner is protecting himself from. But because he's protecting himself from that now makes it not the most dangerous route, and actually there's more dangerous routes. You see Cooks is going to eventually just cut in, and he is able to get wide, not wide open, but he's able to get open, and there's a window to make that throw, and these are the kind of things Cooks does consistently. It was actually pretty funny when he was playing in Houston, and you saw Davis Mills out there, and he was just constantly feeding him the ball. He wouldn't stop throwing in that direction, which is pretty funny. But anyways, moving over here, this is another good example of what he can do well, where what's going to happen on this play, it's going to be it's a cover 2 zone right here, and you see the route on the screen, and you can see how it can work, right? It's not going to be a super easy route to work, but there is going to be a little bubble to make this throw potentially happen. Now, it's a difficult throw because, again, it's not a huge window. So for Cooks, he has to make sure that he can, make it as big as possible. And sometimes the way to do that is to just get there quickly. Watch as right when this play begins, you are going to see that that's essentially what he does. He's able to accelerate well and get in position well to, have a throw be made in this area. The throw is made, and he's able to go up and make the grab. This is a lot of what Cooks brings to the table. It really is. It's a lot of simple stuff. He's not necessarily someone who's going to completely blow you away, although, again, he'll have his moments. But for the most part, he's just a consistent, solid receiver, and that's what you like about him. That's why you trade for him, is you want someone who can just come in and be like a solid, good player, and that's exactly who Brandin Cooks is. And also stuff like this, where what's going to happen on this play is the actual initial concept isn't that unique, so it's going to be zone coverage they're going up against. Cooks' route, just try and find a gap in coverage over the middle. That's what's going to, hopefully happen here for Houston. However, right when this play begins, it's not going to work out too well. Again, this happens. This is a play call thing. There's only so much you can do. You run the route that you're supposed to run, but the defense is all over it. Okay, well, then what do you do from that point? Well, sometimes nothing. Sometimes the ball goes somewhere else. Sometimes, maybe you turn around and block if the quarterback is scrambling or something like that. But sometimes the quarterback is able to scramble without going past the line of scrimmage. And in that case, what do you do? Well, try to find a way to get open. And Cooks is going to do exactly that. Watch him sort of look around and realize, wait a second, deep down the field is open. Let me just go down here, see if I can make something happen, and that's exactly what he does. Really good throw, but also really good awareness from Cooks, and getting a veteran receiver, on the field allows for stuff like this to happen. And I could totally see him and Dak Prescott doing stuff like that this season, and that's definitely what's exciting if you're a Cowboys fan, is the fact that he is capable of doing this kind of thing. And also just stuff like this, again, where he can win on the outside. You don't feel great about leaving him one-on-one, really, and they're not exactly doing that. This is very similar to the last play, the previous play, where it's going to be a cover 2 zone, and so, again, trying to find a gap in that zone. But one thing worth noting is Miami is disguising on this play, meaning that the safety who's going to be covering the top of the screen is right now a lot closer towards the middle of the field, and so because of that, this deep route that Cooks is running definitely has potential to work. And look, as you see, he is able to, the corner eventually is going to pass him off. That's what he's supposed to do. But since Cooks gets there so quickly, he's essentially just beating the safety to the spot right now. That's what he's doing. It's a foot race, and Cooks is winning this foot race. The throw does go in that direction, and Cooks is able to make the grab. Really good stuff. Almost felt like he didn't have to go out of bounds there, but his momentum was going out of bounds, so that's why he eventually did go out of bounds. But still, it's very good stuff from Brandin Cooks to be able to consistently pull this kind of thing off, and that's what's definitely what gets you excited if you are a Dallas Cowboys fan. And I'll say this too. I didn't love the trade at the time from the Houston Texans, and I still don't love it. I think that you're trying to develop a young quarterback. I don't love the idea of making sure that you're I would like it better if they made sure their young quarterback had a guy to throw to, had a reliable receiver to look towards. I mean, I think it helped Davis Mills out a lot to have a receiver that he could look towards pretty consistently, so I certainly think it would help out CJ Stroud for very similar reasons. That's not what they decided to do. They wanted to get younger and sort of move on, trade him when he still had value, which a lot of times I would understand, but to me, I would want to help develop my young quarterback more than I would want to get rid of a player while they still have value. For me, that's how I think you get the most value out of your team. But hey, for Dallas, I think good job by them to jump on it and say, hey, yes, we just got rid of the Amari Cooper for kind of similar stuff, but at the same time, Cooks is not getting paid what Amari Cooper was getting paid, and it's a different year now. They have more cash to spend this year than they had last year, so a lot of stuff goes into it. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Cooks, what he still has and what he can do for the Dallas Cowboys. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.